Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Saturday, May the 13th. Grade 1 stakes action on the lawn. Race number 5 is the Man of War. We're going a mile and 3/8 on the inner turf. Let's take a look at this field. Please click or scan the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile with free Formulator Pass performances. Mike, Charlie Appleby, and Godolphin continued their role last week at Belmont, shipping in another impressive graded stakes winner. They'll try again with the 2, Warren Point, a horse that looks very progressive.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, Dan. Another Appleby Godolphin production here that comes over, finds a pretty good spot. I mean, this horse is going to have to show up, I think, to beat this field, but he's just one of those horses still lightly raced and feels like he's getting better every time they send him out there.
We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector. Of course, we won't have any information for the 2, Warren Place, being a European-based runner. Timeform US has the 4, Verstappen, who came from last to win the Elkhorn last time out on the lead. House Street is getting blinkers. I guess there's a chance he could be forward. Personally, I think Channel Maker, some of his best races in the past have been on the lead. I think Joel Rosario has got to try to get forward with him.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it too. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be shocked if the 4 Verstappen made the lead, but I didn't think he would get there ahead of Channel Maker, even though Channel Maker, he's 9 now, Dan. It doesn't feel like he quite has the speed that he used to have in the past, but he still feels like he could make the lead in here. I thought the other horse, that could be interesting as far as the pace goes was the 7, Strong Tide. I think he's fast enough to get forward in this race.
The number 1, Red Knight, like Channel Maker, is 9 years old, and he's still kicking along. He's a New York bred. He's banked over $1 million in his career, and he just missed a Verstappen last time out in the Elkhorn. 1 race removed after a graded stakes victory down at Gulfstream Park in the McKnight. Now, he was kind of conservatively ridden, I thought, at the back in the Elkhorn. He was just sort of last on the rail entering the 3rd turn. It looked like Corrales wanted to get out. Verstappen hemmed him in. The trip worked out, though. He was able to split horses. He had a look at it. He just couldn't finish with that horse. I wonder if he's just better on harder, firm turf. He's never won a race. He's run well, but he's never won on off turf in his career.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I thought he ran well last time. Like you, I mean, I guess there's a way to look at that Elkhorn and feel like if he didn't wind up going inside of Verstappen around that final turn and then dueling on the inside through the stretch, maybe it could have made a difference there, Dan. All in all, I thought he had every chance to win. I thought he ran pretty well in that spot. I thought Verstappen beat him fair and square. But this horse still ran another good race. He can still do it as a 9-year-old. He's going to need a trip in this race because he just doesn't have any speed at all. He's always coming from last. And so we'll just see if everything works out a little bit better for him this time. He could easily win this race, though.
Appleby and Godolphin were very patient with the 2, Warren Point, from the beginning. He was gelded before he even raced. They ran him in an allowance races. They ran him in handicaps. They got a little stakes victory in him. And then they sent him over to the Middle East, where they ran in Bahrain with a nice victory. And here's his most recent start in Qatar in a Group 1, the Amir Trophy. Now, this is a good purse and a good field. Broome was 5th in this race. He came back to win the Dubai Gold Cup. Warren Point got kind of stopped in mid-stretch before he got to the outside, and he's rolling late.
Yeah, it feels like this is the kind of performance where you could easily go back and watch the full replay and say, boy, he was really unlucky not to be a Group 1 winner at the end of that race. He just got himself sort of blocked in around that final turn. The winner got the jump on him. This horse got out to the clear, finished really strongly. I thought he improved off the layoff in February, Dan. I thought he took another step forward last time. All of his races last year as a 3-year-old were good. And he was keeping good company in those races, too. You see a few races back there. Ottoman Fleet, that horse who just came over here to win the Fort Marcy with a triple-digit buyer. This horse was right behind him last summer, and he ran very well that day. This is a good spot for this horse, but it's not an easy spot, I don't think, Dan. There are good horses in here.
Channel Maker, the number 3, won this race way back in 2019. He's banked over $3 million in his career, and he was up and on the pace in the Elkhorn last time out. He got tired in the end. He was run down by Verstappen. He was run down by Red Knight. It was another solid effort. You have to wonder, and it seems like we say this every year about Channel Maker, is Father Time starting to to maybe take a toll on Channel Maker? Is he getting a little bit long in the tooth? But he still shows up with solid performances in graded races, and maybe they'll get forward with him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is a chance he makes the lead this time, and that could go a long way to perhaps leading to a little bit of a better performance here, Dan. Personally, I kind of feel like he's run better than it looks in both of his starts so far this year. I mean, he didn't win either, and he got a little bit tired at the end both times. But I just personally didn't feel like either one of those trips worked out that well. He's one of 5 in this field coming back out of that Elkhorn. Personally, and I feel like all of those horses, you could make a case for any one of them. I would kind of, out of all 5 of those horses, I would rather have Channel Maker and just hope he can pull a little bit of a better trip this time.
And he'll be one of the better priced horses coming out of the Elkhorn. Verstappen beat 4 of these horses in that race. This is a horse that got very good over the all-weather at Turfway Park over the winter. And then he came back with this big career-making performance in the Elkhorn, where he sat last, swung to the far outside. You see in the yellow silks, Red Knight's going to get a split to his inside, and Verstappen's just going to fend off Red Knight the entire stretch.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, he just beats this horse fair and square, I think. That I thought they both ran well, but I just feel like Verstappen, just sort of won this race on the square off of what I thought was a good trip. I mean, when you go back and watch it, that, to me anyway, that pace really picked up about the far turn in there. Everybody started moving. You saw these 2 horses come from last and next to last to run 1-2, and you saw there at mid-stretch they got by Channel Maker, but I just thought Channel Maker did a lot of hard work there right when that pace started getting fast. These 2 horses ran well. But I could give Channel Maker a chance against them this time.
The horse with the most upside in the field could be up next, and that's the number 5, Howe Street, going out for jockey Flavian Pratt. I really like the way this horse won his first level allowance at Gulfstream 2 starts back. It was the first time they really stretched him out, and he made this smooth 4-wide bid on the 3rd turn to take command, and then he was off to the races, winning easily. Maybe he didn't care for the sort of wetter ground in the Elkhorn last time out. He also made a first move in a race where the 1-2 finishers came from last.
Yeah, listen, that was a pretty tough spot for this horse to go into the Elkhorn right off of a maiden and an allowance win against the horses that he was facing there who were so accomplished. And this horse actually went favored in that race. So you're not the only one who really liked that allowance win 2 starts back. I think he ran okay in there. I mean, I didn't think he had some kind of a huge excuse, but you've already pointed out, he wound up, moving to the outside up the backstretch and moved up closer to that pace. And then he tried to make a run at it I feel like right as that pace was starting to get fast around the final turn. Maybe it's enough of an excuse. I feel like he still needs to improve again as he faces, many of the very same horses and a couple of others who are pretty good as well. But I think you'll get a better price this time if you like him.
Perhaps he'll relax and settle a little bit better with blinkers off for a very underrated trainer in Jorge Abreu. The 6 is Soldier Rising, and this is a horse that doesn't have a lot of speed. You know where he'll be near the early part of this race. It'll be near the back of the pack. I thought he ran okay in the Sword Dancer last year without a big excuse. He got beat a length. I thought in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic he wouldn't have won with a good trip, but he did find some traffic. I was very disappointed in his last start of 2022, the Red Smith Handicap. Maybe he was just crying out for a break, and I like that Clement gave him the winner off and didn't run him at Gulfstream.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe he just did need a break, with that Red Smith. Really kind of a no-show. Dan, I would just say, just don't be too hard on him for that Red Smith, though. That was not a race where you wanted to be coming from far back like this horse was. He had absolutely no chance in there with the winner just walking on the early lead. This horse tried to make a little bit of a run, but he didn't come close. I don't care about that race. His prior 2 starts are good, and he could obviously win here. He needs a trip in this race, though, Dan, since they've gotten him over here. He's won a couple of allowance races, and that's it. But he's multiple grade 1 placed. He's got a good race in him, a race that would make him really tough in here. I'm just not that big a fan, and I don't really want to use him unless he's some kind of really good price.
Strong Tide is the 7, and I thought you made a very good point, Mike, about this horse potentially going to the front. We saw him be up close to the pace in the John Connolly at Sam Houston in 2022, and he took that field a long way into the stretch. Now, his most recent turf race was the 2-mile Belmont Gold Cup. on Belmont Stakes Week in 2022. He's got a clear lead in the stretch. He's just not going to be able to stay against a European runner. But all in all, this was a solid performance. It's a shame he had to miss the rest of the year, but he got a good prep going long at Oaklawn last time out. I expect a step forward, and maybe the ultimate goal will be the 2023 Belmont Gold Cup.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much he can improve here. I think he can as well, though. He's got the prep on the dirt last time, and he is a versatile horse. He can win on both surfaces, but I like him coming back to turf here, Dan. And listen, I get it. He needs probably to run the race of his life if he's going to be around at the end of this. But 3 turf starts last year, I thought he ran really well in all of them. You mentioned the Connolly, where he was the only part of the pace who was still there at the end. The 2-mile race that we just watched, he ran fine. The Louisville before that, going a mile and a half, totally shut off, trying to come through on the rail at mid-stretch. He was in contention and lost all chance, ran way better than it looks that day.
Things to like, 20-1 on the morning line. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe. Well, let's talk about the 8 value engineering before we talk about our top selections. Yeah. Value engineering didn't run very well last time out in the Elkhorn. That's one of the reasons that maybe I forgot about him a little bit. I was a bit disappointed. He won the McDermott at 2 starts back, Mike, and he had just run solid effort after solid effort since being taken over by Michael Maker. What happened to the Elkhorn? Was it just the wet track? Was it a simple situation where we've seen horses not fire at Keeneland?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go back to him in here, I guess that's the question you're going to have to ask yourself, Dan. What happened last time? Because as far as I could tell, he got a pretty good trip in that race, saving a lot of ground off of a good pace, and he just never fired. He did run better 2 back. It does feel like sort of maybe Maker's gotten the best out of this horse because he never really panned out for Chad Brown and Klarovich. But his race 2 back gives him some kind of a chance in here. And 3-1 last time. If you like him this time, you're going to do a lot better.
12-1. Manny Franco takes them out. Mike's right. 99 buyer speed figure, 2 starts back, and a graded stakes winner going long. Don't sleep on value engineering, as I just did. Please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Grade 1 Man of War. It's the Saturday race of the day. Godolphin's winning everything. Mike thinks they'll take another one, this time with Frankie Dettori aboard on Warren Point.
Yeah, I just like this horse. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and I didn't really know where I was going to go. Out of the Elkhorn, again, I just kind of want Channel Maker, and I don't really want the other horses, but I couldn't convince myself that I really want to bet him in this race, although I think he's going to run well. The other horse for me was the 7 Strong Tide. And, you know, I'm going to use that horse, but I didn't really want to make him my top pick because it's not going to be easy for him to win. So I settled for Warren Point. I just think he's going to show up and run another good one.
Red Knight's been very consistent in his 2 starts this year. A lack of early speed might work against him. I'm expecting him to give his usual honest performance. I really want the ground to be firm at Belmont. I think that's key for him. 2736 for Mike, 1254 for me. It's the Grade 1 Man of War and a nice card at Belmont on Saturday. Good luck.